Carrie Morgan was Cassie Ventura's former best friend, Carrie Morgan. She described witnessing Combs assaulting Cassie twice.
Cassie for 17 years, but things went sour after she alleged that Diddy beat her with a wooden coat hanger and she signed an NDA.
Carrie Morgan, Cassie's best friend, testified, did Diddy lose all his calm for even a single moment in court? You won't believe what triggered him.
Cassie Ventura's former best friend, Carrie Morgan. She described witnessing Combs assaulting Cassie twice. The first time in a home Combs was renting in the Hollywood Hills. Morgan testified that, quote, "I saw him push her. I'm pretty sure he hit her." The second time allegedly happened in Jamaica. Morgan says they were in the bar area of a home when, quote, "I heard her screaming." She recalled guttural, terrifying screams. Combs faces the possibility of life in prison if convicted. He's pleaded not guilty and has denied all wrongdoing.
While the atmosphere wasn't particularly tense, there was an unmistakable weight in the air as everyone settled in for what they assumed would be just another day in court. Diddy sat at his table, leaning back slightly in his chair, and his legal team was next to him, flipping through notes and looking confident as if they had the day planned out. The media, seated behind the courtroom barriers, whispered among themselves, cameras ready to capture anything remotely. And then everyone was shocked as Carrie Morgan entered the room. Although her name had been mentioned a few times, few people had realized how important she would be in this case as Cassie's best friend. The tone of the room changed as Carrie was sworn in. Diddy's side exchanged glances that could only be described as uneasy following her every move with his one-scum body language. Carrie appeared composed but determined as she took the stand. And the prosecution was well prepared to welcome her, while Diddy is known for maintaining his composure under pressure. It wasn't immediately clear to everyone in the courtroom that he was losing it. However, those who were closely observing him started to notice the subtle signs, such as his jaw tightening, his hands clasped together, and his eyes narrowing. As soon as Carrie started speaking, the tension became evident, and witnesses later described the moment as electric. With the entire courtroom hanging on Carrie's words, and more specifically, Diddy's reaction, it took place. Carrie's testimony was interrupted by Diddy, who slammed his hand down on the table and spoke loudly, disrupting her testimony. Media outlets reported that he was visibly angry, with one journalist saying it was as if he couldn't hold back another second. Carrie's words struck a nerve, revealing explosive personal details that poured out like gasoline on a fire. The court repeatedly called for order. The security personnel in the room, it was a complete moment of unraveling. He spoke angrily to his legal team, pointing to Carrie and shaking his head. When witnesses later told reporters about the turmoil, his manner stood in sharp contrast to the controlled image he had worked so hard to cultivate. One minute you could hear a pin drop, and the next it seemed like everyone in the room was on edge and truly shocked. Even Diddy's attorneys appeared taken aback and frantically trying to calm him down, according to one spectator, while another court source stated that cameras outside the courthouse captured a frenzy of activity during the recess. Reporters scrambled to piece together what had transpired, but the real question that hung over the room was what Carrie Morgan had said that so completely broke. Diddy's composure, whatever she had said, was obviously powerful enough to shake one of the most unshakable people in the music business. To comprehend Diddy's response, we must first understand Carrie Morgan and the significance of her remarks in this particular situation.
Carrie Morgan was on the stand. That was Cassie Ventura's former best friend. What did Carrie say happened after that incident?
Cassie Ventura left the Intercontinental Hotel, went back to her apartment, her home, and there was Carrie Morgan waiting. She said immediately she saw the black eye that Ventura had testified Combs gave her after the freak-off got violent, and the whole reason why then the subsequent assault in the hallway happened. And then Carrie Morgan said about a half hour later, Sean Combs starts banging on the door with a hammer. Was not let in, but she said she heard him yelling, finally called some of Combs' staff members to try to get him to leave. Police were called, but Cassie Ventura said, and Carrie Morgan backed this up, that nothing ever came of it because Cassie Ventura refused to say anything about Sean Combs and what happened to her.
Aaron, I have to ask you, because Combs was sitting just feet away from Don Richard and Carrie Morgan in court today. How did he react to seeing them and hearing all of this?
He's been an attentive listener. In some cases, he would shake his head or nod along or consult with his lawyers, scribbling a lot of notes. This was an important part of the testimony because it made a turn, Eva. The jury had heard from Cassie Ventura directly about, in rather explicit terms, a lot of the sex acts. But the prosecution's whole case is that she was coerced into that sex because of the violence, the kind of violence that both Don Richard and Carrie Morgan said they witnessed. Now, the defense says there are other reasons for the violence. Jealousy, drugs, didn't have anything to do with coercing her into sex. But the prosecutors want the jury to hear these accounts to say that Cassie Ventura was not only telling the truth about being beat up, but that she had reason to then go along with Sean Combs' sexual demands.
Even though Carrie Morgan isn't well known, she has emerged as one of the most critical voices in this case because Cassie's best friend has come forward not only to support her, but also as a crucial witness. Testimony has the power to alter everything. You have to wonder what she knows that others don't, and what makes her words so powerful that they rocked Diddy to his core. These aren't just questions people are asking out of curiosity. They're essential to comprehending why this trial has taken such a drastic turn. To go back a little, Carrie Morgan and Cassie had a bond that was reportedly founded on trust long before the courtroom cameras were installed. Years of mutual trust and life experiences, Carrie has been regarded by acquaintances who knew both women as extremely loyal to Cassie and someone who has supported her through thick and thin. Why is that important? Because Carrie is the only one who has been around long enough to witness what transpired behind closed doors. Because of her long-term relationship with Cassie, her testimony is more than simply a statement. It is a first-hand description of what Cassie went through. In addition to her long-standing connection with Cassie, Carr's credibility has been attributed to the fact that she is a measured, thoughtful person who doesn't talk until she is quite certain of what she is saying. One source close to the case even called her decision to take the stand is all the more intriguing because she is not a drama queen. She wasn't forced into the spotlight. Rather, she stood up knowing full well the seriousness of her role in revealing the truth. But let's get to the main question. How much does Carrie really know based on reports? Carr's testimony isn't based on rumors or hazy observations. She says she saw or heard about significant abuse incidents during Cassie's turbulent relationship with Diddy firsthand. One media outlet called her the piece of the puzzle no one saw coming, emphasizing the weight of her statements in this trial, but the specifics of her claims weren't disclosed. Carrie's willingness to confront a global icon in a public courtroom is another thing that makes her stand out. Almost everyone watching the case has commented on the courage it takes to speak out, especially knowing the vast legal resources Diddy has at his disposal. It's evident that she isn't holding back, as she allegedly patterns of control, manipulation, and incidents of harm that, if proven, could drastically shift the case in Cassie's favor. In her statement, Carr expresses her will to pursue justice for herself. This is where we are because her testimony is unavoidable. Buddy, whatever the personal risk. Carrie Morgan has alluded to details that no one else could provide, but the question still stands. What did she say on the stand that sent shockwaves through the courtroom? Let's break down exactly what was revealed and why it left everyone, including Diddy, reeling. Trust me, the allegations are explosive.
You already mentioned the second witness today, Cassie Ventura's former best friend, Carrie Morgan. What did Carrie have to say?
So let me tell you, Carrie Morgan is crucial, and she came crucial because she comes off as credible. Because one of the first statements that she made is that she came here because she was compelled to testify. She no longer speaks to Cassie Ventura. They stopped talking in 2018 after this incident having to deal with where she was assaulted by Sean Combs, where Sean Combs grabbed her by the neck and also threw a wooden hanger at her. But also that it led to Cassie given her $30,000 so she wouldn't say anything about that specific incident, and that was the end of their relationship. She also corroborated 2 of the assaults that took place, having to deal with Cassie in terms of her being drugged and as well as her being punched. So she corroborated a lot of the testimony, but she came off as a neutral witness, and the defense wasn't able to break her as they wanted to, but was able to say that, look, it was still a loving relationship.
The moment Carrie Morgan testified was not just another step in the trial. It was the one that turned everything upside down. From the moment she sat down, there was a noticeable change in the atmosphere. This wasn't just any testimony, though. It was the one that everyone had been anticipating, or in Diddy's case, dreading, and when she started speaking, it was immediately clear why what she had to say wasn't just shocking, but devastating. The accusations came out gradually, but each word seemed to carry more weight than the last. She detailed instances of control, manipulation, and abuse that Cassie allegedly suffered at the hands of Diddy, which she saw firsthand. However, what really stopped everyone in their tracks was the way she detailed one terrifying incident after another. According to Carrie, there were times when physical violence wasn't just a possibility, it was real. She claimed to have seen bruises on Cassie multiple times and even related specific instances where Diddy's temper came out with terrifying results: psychological coercion, claiming that Diddy frequently used his influence and power to keep Cassie under his control. One of the most shocking moments was when Carrie claimed that Diddy would keep Cassie away from friends and family, even going so far as to monitor her calls and texts to keep control over her life. According to Carrie, this wasn't just a bad breakup or a turbulent relationship. It was something much darker. That wasn't enough. She didn't hold back when it came to specific claims, citing one night in particular that left the courtroom in stunned silence. Despite not disclosing every detail, Carrie didn't share. She recounted an incident in which Cassie allegedly called her out of fear, stating that Diddy's rage had reached a breaking point. Carrie said she had to physically intervene, which she said could have further escalated the situation if things had gone wrong. The courtroom reaction was swift. The judge had to ask the gallery to calm down at one point as the room erupted in audible gasps. Diddy's legal team exchanged furious glances as Carrie's statements became as shocking as Carrie's statements were. One question consumed everyone's thoughts. How would Diddy's team respond to these bombshell allegations? Would they address her claims head-on or attempt to discredit her entirely? What transpired next would only add more drama to an already chaotic trial. Diddy reportedly lost it when he muttered something under his breath and slapped his hand on the table so loudly it echoed. Witnesses described it as a simmering rage finally boiling over. The judge had to pause proceedings for several minutes during this
And I will say, I think she seemed to say things very matter of fact. There were definitely moments where there was a little bit of what I would call sass, which I didn't think was a bad thing. I think she represented herself very well, and I felt as I read what was being said, she seems like a very credible witness. I think this is going to be one that may stick out in the jury's mind because she was subpoenaed to be here. She is speaking in defense of Cassie, but at the same time, she was also very hurt by Cassie.
Yeah.
And the way that it all came out was very honest. So it's definitely an interesting one to go through.
Yeah, I mean, she's giving a perspective that it feels more like, I don't give a crap about any of these people, so I'm going to give it to you straight. I've moved on from all this, but let's go do it. And not really throwing Cassie under the bus in any way, but
no,
clearly doing it more honestly. So, so she made it clear she was only there because of the subpoena. And she confirmed that she and Cassie, who met on a modeling shoot as teenagers, no longer speak because Ventura's boyfriend ate her. Now, was this Agnifilo the Costco lawyer did end up doing this or not?
Yes, Mark Agnifilo, or as we lovingly call him, the Costco lawyer.
Because it's just funny, there's this buildup of he's finally going to do something during this trial. It was our first chance to see Costco lawyer step up to the stand, Kim, right? So
we'll get
as
there.
we go through, let's see how he does, yeah?
Yeah. It was fascinating.
The defense wasn't just constructing a counter-argument. They were working to dismantle Carrie Morgan's entire role in this case. The first step of their strategy became evident during cross-examination. When Dylan's lawyers focused on Carr's relationship with Cassie, hinting that her testimony may have been biased due to their close bond. Would you say you've always taken Cassie's side no matter the situation? It was a calculated move to make the jury wonder if Carrie's perspective was based on truth or just blind allegiance. But the grilling didn't end there. According to those in the courtroom, one lawyer asked Carrie in an attempt to paint her as someone too emotionally invested to give an objective account. They went one step further and claimed that her loyalty to Cassie may have affected her memory of events. Isn't it true that you weren't physically present for all of these incidents? Diddy's attorneys said as they started to analyze the chronology of Carr's claims. When asked to point out holes in her account, one attorney made it obvious that the defense was searching for discrepancies during their cross-examination. The defense developed the idea that Carrie had something to gain by testifying. At one point, they suggested that her decision to come forward was influenced by her personal grievances with Diddy, rather than a genuine commitment to the truth. Would you describe your relationship with Mr. Combs as positive before this? One lawyer asked, starting a line of questioning that suggested Carrie might have reasons for wanting to come forward. Harm the reputation of Diddy, perhaps Carrie was not only a witness, but also actively involved in a campaign against him. The back and forth between Carrie and Diddy's legal team became so heated that the judge had to intervene several times to keep things on course. When one of Diddy's attorneys became especially aggressive, the judge reminded them that this court will not tolerate disrespect toward any witness. However, despite their interventions, the defense made it apparent that they were prepared to battle tooth and nail to discredit Carr's evidence if it was going to undermine the case. Reactions to the defense's strategy were divided, though. Courtroom insiders who pointed out flaws in Carrie's testimony felt they made an impression, while others pointed out that Carrie maintained her composure and consistency, which might have just strengthened her credibility. A trusted source said the real test will be whether the jury sees their questions as legitimate or as an attempt to intimidate her. And that is the question that looms large in this instance. Will the defense's attempts to undermine Carr's testimony be sufficient, or will her statements and the supporting evidence be too strong to reject? The answer to that question may be found in the evidence Carrie presented in court and whether it is powerful enough to completely alter the course of this trial.
You two were best friends for 18 years, but now you haven't spoken with her since 2018. That's true. At the danger of being capital obvious, that's a long time. She's moved on. Objection. Why haven't you spoken with her? She did not support me after Sean assaulted me. I try that line at assault. I don't know what that means. Oh, I think it means I set the line at assault. I don't cross the line of assault or whatever. You reached a settlement with Miss Ventura? The money came from Mr. Combs. So this was after I believe she was assaulted by Diddy. That that in order to hush her up, Diddy gave her some money. Or they settled it, however it is. That's a pattern that seems to be happening with him throughout the decades. So Agnifilo shows Carrie Morgan photos, then asks, do you know if Louise Hayes is a self-help author about self-affirmation? Yes. Why did you send him this with words of encouragement? I don't remember sending it. Okay. I want to show you a few more photos. But first, let's talk about the incident where he put his hands on your neck. Were you and Cassie using any drugs at the time? No. What did he say? He said, who is she cheating with? You went to an urgent care and not the hospital, right? Like she's saying just right as the answer. But you told the prosecutors it was bloody and you went to the hospital. I don't remember that. Look at this. And so this is material not shown to the jury. I see that I said that. Now in this, I think it's like now in cross-examination. I'm not sure what that means. Okay. I see that I said that. Do you remember Mr. Agnifilo asking you about an incident in LA? Objection, overruled, and he hit her, like in Jamaica, arguing. Oh, okay, that's what it is. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me go back. So they were doing right here. Agnifilo is Diddy's attorney. That's what I wasn't understanding. So they did the cross. All right. So now this is the prosecutors again asking her questions. They get to come back up. So that's who's asking. That's just like, why is Agnifilo asking a question about himself?
What kind of evidence did Carrie Morgan present? Her testimony wasn't based on hazy recollections or vague claims. Rather, it was based on concrete proof that sent shockwaves through the courtroom. As powerful as her words were, the evidence she revealed seemed to push this case into uncharted territory, leaving no doubt that her role in the trial was much bigger than anyone had been expecting. To bolster her testimony, Carrie reportedly turned over a number of texts, images, and even recordings. One series of messages purportedly documented direct communication between Cassie and Carrie at the time of the occurrences with Diddy, according to insiders. Cassie allegedly shared real-time accounts of abusive incidents in which she reached out to Carrie in a state of terror and despair. Lawyers used passages from these messages in court, and witnesses regarded the content as horrifying. One bystander observed how the judge appeared, showed signs of discomfort as the details were revealed, demonstrating the gravity of the accusations. But that wasn't all. Carrie also revealed pictures she says Cassie sent her, which allegedly revealed bruises and injuries in line with her claims. One journalist called the pictures heartbreaking and graphic, and the courtroom fell silent as the prosecution showed them, leaving viewers to piece together the sequence of events that led up to these moments. These pictures help document the abuse and seek advice. The pictures were attached to messages in which Cassie allegedly said she was afraid of reprisals if she attempted to end the relationship. Later, witnesses in the courtroom said that the pictures and texts together appeared to paint a clear and unsettling picture of what was allegedly taking place behind closed doors. Then came the recordings, which were reportedly the most damning piece of evidence she presented in court. Carrie, arguments between Diddy and Cassie. In one clip that was played for the court, Diddy was allegedly heard yelling in a way that supported allegations of his explosive temper. Another recording reportedly contained threats which clearly shook those in the gallery. The defense attempted to claim that the recordings lacked context and proved nothing definitive, but the tone of them was enough to leave. Courtroom insiders explained the response to this evidence. It was obvious that this wasn't just a he said, she said situation anymore, because Carr's testimony and the evidence she presented added a layer of credibility that was difficult to dismiss. However, where does this leave the case? One journalist described the room as extremely tense as each piece of evidence was presented, exposing the allegations like never before. And one insider said that the jury seemed stunned. Her remarks weren't merely charges. They were supported by evidence that seemed to support each assertion. This case is still ongoing, but one thing is certain. Everything was completely altered by Carrie Morgan's testimony. What comes next could be even more startling. The bravery required to face influential people and expose unpleasant realities is what this trial is all about. Not just Diddy and Cassie. Although Carrie Morgan's testimony has taken this case to a new level, and the evidence she presented could completely alter the course of events, as considering how stunning this has already been. It seems like we have only just begun to explore the case. What comes next could change our understanding of it. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and remember to subscribe for updates as this develops. Stay tuned because there is still a lot more to come.